Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. So I'm still on the road. Expect that to continue for another week because next week is Thanksgiving, so this never ends. But it's Tom and I this week. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
Good to join you again, Tom. So I am in the middle of a very long week here of travel, but that's all right. We can take a break. It's always good to get a show in. So, fair warning at the top of the show, between the lack of news and the fact that I am traveling, this may be a shorter one. But we're still going to dive in. We're going to be talking about a little Kharadron Overlords tonight. I wanted to return to KO because they did well in a recent tournament, but also because
a couple recent tournaments. Half of the Holy Havoc team that won that same weekend was a KO list.
That is right. That's right. And, I think your views on them have been evolving as well over time, Tom, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that as time goes on and we sort of actually really, truly unlock the faction, I think it bared returning back to, right?
Yeah.
We did the same thing with Ironclad, where we kind of did initial appraisal and then came back to them later. In that case, it was after the, sort of PHP 17, but it's still the case, which, by the way, again, I don't know if I've said enough times, but them pigs. But anyway.
They can do some work.
MVPs. But let's get to some news, what little of it there is.
So, rumor engine?
Yeah, let's start there. Start.
And finish.
Probably.
Let's just do the rumor engine. How's that sound? Rumor engine,
great.
Go. So, arrows.
Yep.
Right. Like, is this the quiver? Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's definitely a quiver. Yes. I mean, it's got arrows sticking into a holding device. I think by definition, that's quiver, right?
Yep. So everybody that I've heard has said this is elves.
Yeah. This is pretty much seen as universal elf confirmation.
Don't know if I agree with that.
Wow. Explain to me your reasoning for getting, like, you have seen elves in so many images that were farther away from elves. They could release a plastic Thunderhawk spoiler and you'd be like, it's elvish transport. So,
Sure.
So why is it elves?
The wrought iron, the design.
First of all, I don't think that's wrought iron. I think that's gold filigree, but okay.
You think so?
Because
like it's not, because it's reminiscent of like the iron, like the rough iron that we see on a number of different models. Not the least of which are death-related things.
It feels too ornate. Everything feels too clean to me to be to be death. I could be wrong. Like I'm not gonna say I know this for sure, obviously, because who the heck knows any of this for sure, right?
Right.
But between the sort of ornamentation, like this is clearly painted, right?
It is clearly painted, like because you can see it up on like the feathering and stuff like that. Like you can see the tonal like brushstroke stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is clearly painted. This is clearly small because even like this could be bolts, not actual arrows. Because like again, I think this is small because you don't even see really any of the veining strokes.
Right. Yes, I agree.
And so if this were painted by any of the GW team, I would anticipate that you would at least see some variation there, and you don't. Which means that this could be a fairly small, like, bolt quiver. I think about things like the dwarven, like, little bolt pouches that they had on their corolars. And I just wonder if we have something small like that. Again, I don't know. I mean, it could be elven, but what I would say is that gold, or the trim, whatever that metal is, it doesn't have the elegance that I would expect from a standard elven. Like an elven.
Well, we don't. What would make you think we're getting a standard elven anything?
And that may not be like, so that could be, this could be like dark elves, like evil elves, not like dark elves, but like some type of like, this could be your Cthulhu elf archers or something.
Well, I'll tell you exactly. I think it is, and I'll tell you exactly why. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
I think this is absolutely the like sea or Cthulhu or whatever you want to say. Elves. Yep. Here's my reasoning for that. Okay.
Oh, that hand crossbows.
Yes, exactly. I do think they're bolts. I think you're right. That the lack of fletching had caught me as well.
Yep.
It's clearly small. I think
Yep.
they're bolts. The look of the top of the quiver, okay,
Yep.
does have the sort of shape of like I think this is like seahorse something or something like that, okay? And this is the bolt thing that's strapped on the back of like some kind of sea creature rider. It has the look of that seashell like
Yes.
thing,
Yep.
okay?
Yep. And
Uh,
I would agree with that. Like because again, that metal is a non-standard texture to it.
Yes. So I think that's exactly what this is communicating, right? This is going to be like the bolt pack, the bolt quiver, if there's still a quiver, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But whatever. On like some kind of cavish or something like that unit
Sure.
of people for the
Say catfish.
Cav-ish.
Cavish, not a catfish. No catfish riders.
Yeah, no. Catfish riders. Flying catfish riders. You heard it here first. We called it.
Okay, I'm in. I
There you
mean,
go.
probably. I'm probably not in, but okay.
Winged fish.
Yep. Cool.
So there you go. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Like I said, like I think it's corals. Like it fits all those things. It's not a good guy. This is not high elves in any way, shape, or form. Like this doesn't feel like a good guy because of the texturing and the shape of that metal. That's all I would say.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there were people who made allusions to like the War Queen and the scalloping on the bottom of her shelves, her shield. Sorry, but I think the scallop is the right word. Like, I think people are cluing into the aesthetic, even if I don't think it has anything to do with chaos. That's way too ornate.
Right.
That style doesn't match the chaos style, even the dark oak.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I also think the Cthulhu elves or whatever they are, let's just call them that for lack of a better thing. I don't think that's what they'll actually be, but some kind of sea influenced elves.
You know who I really wish like that? You're probably right, but you know what I wish it was?
What's that?
Death elves.
Sure, that'd be neat. And look, I'm not
like I really want a death elf faction, like badly.
Well, you don't know that those sea elves aren't in the death faction,
right? No, and that's true.
I'm not making an alliance call, because here's the thing: I think they're the first elf. I don't mean like what I'm saying is out of the elf releases. I think the reason we've heard so much more about the Cthulhu elves or whatever you want to call them is because they are the first in the queue. And I think we're going to see a very, very different elf release here. Now, maybe they'll still be order, maybe they'll be death, maybe they'll be something unusual, but I think they're the ones we're going to see not too far from them.
Yeah. Maybe. I hope so. I mean, what I would say is this: like, I'm itching for like if I could do a death faction and then ally in or summon in some stuff with my elves of like other undead stuff. Like, I would be totally in for that.
Sure.
Like that's something that is super compelling, and you could make some really neat like that whole ghost fleet thing from the Firestorm campaign.
Yeah,
like that stuff it writes itself then, because you have a bunch of like pirate elves that are death, like that the whole like Druchii stuff that Stone Monk is doing, that Eric's doing. You wouldn't even have to go that route. Like you could just go the new stuff, do some conversions from the Kharadron stuff, and you're done.
Right. Yeah. No, and I mean, look, to me, I think the challenge they've had with death is that it's so without Tomb Kings. It's so mononote, right? Like everything in death is basically the same thing. I don't mean that in any insulting fashion. I'm just saying like I don't think they had a clear vision or like I don't think the sculptors had a clear vision as to exactly what they wanted to do. My guess is they tried a lot of different things because we know these things are in process like 2 years back, right? So chances are they were teeing up probably lots of different sculpts of interesting ways to take death, and it took time.
Right. They just had to find the right thing that was compelling, is what I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're going to create something brand new like that, you've got to find the idea that hits. You can't just like bang out your first idea and be like, "Yep, this is good. Let's base our whole." We're creating something new that's going to be around for years. Right? So when you're doing something new like that, you want to make sure it actually hits. So I think in the end that again, I'm not saying
I hope it's death. I hope it's death.
I would call it 70-30 that it's not. But
I agree. Like, and if it's not this one, like I really do want that release where like because again, I like that's so crystal in my mind of like elves resorting to death to try to extract the souls from Slaanesh. or whatever, like to save their elven kin from digestion.
Well, and we know we've got the second death faction, or sorry, death. The second elf faction is allegedly the one that's coming that has the, sort of
The
more
Slaaneshi or whatever,
influence
yeah.
or Marathi, whatever she's, that her faction.
Yep. And we saw her with Shadow Demon, so I mean, we don't know if she's Chaos. We don't know what she is. So
she could go a lot of directions. Obviously, most of the moving on, I think most of the news this week has been around Necromunda, right? I mean, that's been the story of the week because it is, my goodness, is it everywhere?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Like the different pre-order groups that I'm a part of, everybody's like, get ready to go, and it's like emails are going out, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, yep.
I will say I pre-ordered my Escher gang. So there you go. I also picked up some skull packs because those are back in stock. I was very happy to hear that.
Yep. I'm holding off. I'm not gonna pull the trigger on Necromunda. I picked up the Shadow War box. I think I'm gonna wait. I have 40K stuff that I'm not touching. I haven't played a whole lot of Shadespire, not as much as I'd like to.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm probably just not. I'm gonna hold off on Necromunda for now.
That's understandable. Are you getting your? Have you gotten your Shadespire together?
Yeah, like everything's put together. Like I posted the images on last week from when I got done putting my death stuff together. Yeah.
Yes, your completed Tomb King conversions or whatever.
Yes, my Tomb King conversions. Yep.
Absolutely. So have you painted them yet? I suppose we'll talk about this during hobby time, but
Yeah. Like, hey, great segue. Let's move into hobby time. Well, or do you want to do pick of the week?
Pick of the week next. That's how this show goes. You see, there is a thing. Yeah, I mean, sadly, I don't really think there is. Oh, there was one other news item I did want to touch on, by the
way. Okay, hit us.
That's a little more perhaps interesting or whatever, personal at the same time. So the event sales for Adepticon go live at, I believe it's 8 p.m. November 17th. So that's this Friday. So first off, if you're interested in if you're going to Adepticon, which you should be, everybody should go to Adepticon pretty much, period. It is the best time, more or less, you can have at a wargaming convention. I would be really hard pressed to pick a favorite between that and Nova. They're both amazing. So go to one of the two. But upcoming in March is Adepticon. So the events go live. And if you go now, you can see the preview of the events. They have the preview events up, so you can go and look at everything. There's a ton of good events. But the reason I'm also hammering on this more is I am teaching 4 different classes over the weekend at Adepticon. 2 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday. Sounds right off the top of my head. I'll admit I don't have my own schedule in front of me. But they're all sort of in the evening type hours. So even if you're playing in a tournament, you might be able to squeeze in like the Friday or Saturday one, depending on what tournament you're playing in. But check it out. If you go, you can sort by instructor, and you can look for my name. You'll see me. I would love to have you, anybody who's interested. But there's so many great people coming and teaching classes this year. It's amazing. Wow, did they double down this year? So there are just an incredible amount of people. Banshee's coming back for the first time in a couple years. Obviously, like Ben Komitz is there, and Sergio and Matt DiPietro, and just everybody amazing. Everybody who I love and think does amazing art is teaching classes. So I would highly encourage you, if you're going to make time, even if you're playing in tournaments all weekend. I'd love you to come to mine, but honestly, make time for a hobby class. You will never have an opportunity to learn with this many amazing people in this close of proximity outside of Adepticon. And this, as somebody who's been there years in a row and knows the instructor layout, I want to give a shout out to Damon Drescher, who puts all this together and who did an amazing job this year recruiting people and getting everything organized. Who did a fantastic job, who is also himself, by the way, an unbelievably skilled miniature painter. And so check it out. Make time. Seriously, you will not regret it. Whether it's even an hour and a half class, learning from some of these people is a unique opportunity that will can change the way you hobby forever for the rest of the year. There you go. 8 p.m. Central. It sounds right. November 17th. If you go to I'll link Adepticon down below and you can go check it out. So this Friday. There you go. I think that's all the big news.
Sure. Vince, why are you not on your phone? That's what I want to know. Why are you not shooting this episode from your phone?
Did somebody mention that in the comments? Because I'd get better sound.
Yeah, how your audio sucks.
Sure. I apologize. I don't know what to tell you. I suppose I could just like set my phone up here. Like I could just put it down.
Totally. Yeah, just shoot it on your phone.
Yeah. Clearly. I'll look at it. Maybe seriously that's what I need to do. I don't know. Like it worked fine when we did it in the car, so maybe it would be the better way to go. You'd think of the laptop would be the better option, but
surprise.
All right, so now let's talk about pick of the week, man. So what do you got? What do you want to share with people?
So I'm going to pick something different this week.
Okay.
Let me pop open a screenshot, and I want to share this.
I'm interested.
Bam! This is what I want to share this week. This, my friends, if you are not familiar with, this is Doomwheel. This is an iOS game that you can get for just, like $3, and it is worth every damn penny.
Okay, so you're driving a Doomwheel in this, and you seem to be running over a couple of Tomb Kings models here.
Indeed. And so the entire point of this game is to drive it and crash it into things. And so the first, I don't know how many levels, I was just driving through dwarves. Dwarves everywhere. Like in the gates of Ekrund, and you're just running over slayers and warriors and iron drakes and flame cannons and just all of it. All of the stuff. And top to bottom, this is just a fun, every time you kill anything, it keeps track of how many things you run over of that type. And when you go in, it's dwarf things. And then you click through, and it's just all of it is Skaven-y all the way down. And it's just a fun, quite addictive, integrated game, is what I would say. That's the best way that I can describe what this is. For $1, you can buy the Tomb Kings expansion, which I clearly did, and enjoyed running over necrosphinxes and all the skeletons in the world, and tomb scorpions and bone giants and the whole deal, and making Khalida angry, because every time you take over a territory, the people who control that territory get is talking with you and talking trash. And so I was rampaging through Khalida's empire. I've knocked out Wurzog and Grimgor and all the dwarven lords, everybody. It's just been delightful. And I betrayed Ikit. The first thing that I did was I went and took some of his territory, and Ikit Claw was pissed off because he's the one that gave me my Doomwheel. It was great. It was just fantastic. So it is worth the couple dollars to buy this game. I don't even know. It really is that enjoyable. So I shared this image, and the game designers were like, "Hey, thanks for sharing this, Tom." They popped into my Twitter, and I was like, "You're welcome." I did not anticipate that happening, but what I'll say is it's a very enjoyable kind of mini game, and so me and my kids have had a lot of fun running stuff over. And let me just say, it's made me want to build a 1,000-point Skyr army. Just doing this, I'm like, yeah, I need to put some Doomwheels on the table. When I told my son that we could make this army on the table, his eyes got as big as silver dollars. He's like, really?
Sure. Because look, it's Clan Skyr. I mean, come on. It's the most awesome of Skaven clans. They drive around giant killing machines. They have massive rats. They've bred into war machines that carry around artillery on them. They throw crazy globes full of poison gas at people. Their leader is in power armor with a power claw.
Yeah.
What's not to love? Everything is to love with Clan Skyr. And yes, they drive around psychotic Doomwheel machines. Which, by the way, I know a lot of people have hated on the Doomwheel since AOS. I actually think it's still a really useful part of your Clan Skyr army.
Yeah, I want to relook at them before I buy my 1,000 points. But I'm going to put at least one on the table just for fun.
Well, so here's the problem. Here's where I think I know we're not talking about Clan Skyer, but just to talk about
Is it roll? Is it roll?
Yes, exactly. So that thing used to be just a straight killing machine, right? You would just shove it at like the most dangerous things on the board, and it would just lightning them down.
Right.
Right. And that's not what it does anymore. It's just not the purpose of the thing. What it does now is what Skyer lacks is like you can do lots of fun tunneling tricks with Skyer.
Yeah. Yep.
But you don't have a lot of like on the board mobility. Okay, like once you're there, you're kind of there. It's the old Stormcast conundrum.
Yep. Well, it's the KO conundrum actually. Like this is one of the things I'm going to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the Doom Wheel is actually quite fast. If you sort of overcharge it, like if you can basically double its random movement, and it will actually move because you get like 2d6 times 2 out of the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so something moving on average 14 inches, that's a pretty good move, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So it actually serves as a really fast screening item to just get around it. It gets in the way to keep them from hitting your more sensitive units. And that's how you need to think about it. It's not that expensive, and it's just aggressive.
What is its point at? Is it like 120, 100?
I think it's 140 off the top of my head. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I admittedly I don't have the point.
That's expensive chaff, but yeah, no, I hear.
No, I mean it can kill stuff too. Don't get me wrong. My point is it's not worthless. It can kill things.
Yeah.
It's not gonna you used to be able to literally shove it at anything. And because the lightning was like 3 lightning bolts at strength possibly 10 doing D6 damage, it would just like blow anything up, right? That's not what it does anymore, right?
Sure.
Now it throws around some lightning bolts, it runs into things. Like it can do damage, but you've got to be more careful with it. Sure. It's good at clearing out small other intervening threats. Like it'll win against those things. Sorry, 130. Okay. So not too bad.
Yep.
There you go. All right. So my pick of the week, I want to talk about a tutorial that came from our good friend Victor Case. He put up a tutorial around doing Nurgle bases. I know there's a lot of people working on Death Guard armies, and I think we're going to see obviously a Nurgle release upcoming. So I feel like this is probably a useful tutorial to have.
Yep.
He made a really nice Nurgle base, and he kind of walks you through how he did it. It's not a complicated process, but it looks really good. So I want to point everybody. Victor obviously does a ton of good tutorials. He puts out a new one every week. Highly recommend it. But I'll link it down below. So if you're interested in getting some gross basing action on, having your people walking through sort of disgusting puddles and pools and other Nurgly related infestations of grossness, this is a very good resource for you. And to me, it's the kind of thing that can take a Nurgle army and just make it look so much better. Nothing makes me more sad than like seeing a Nurgle army just be on like dirt with 2 toughs. You know what I mean?
Hey, I have at least mud and green pools.
Sure.
I do. It's mud. Well, it's muddy.
You at least put the pools on there. Yes, which is nice. So there you go. All right, so now let's turn to some hobby time, brother. I know you've got something exciting you want to share.
Okay. Well, I do. I have a couple exciting things. Let me start with the oldest, which is the one that I've already revealed. I put my Shadespire warbands together. I didn't do a lot of conversions. I actually only did one, and that's this one. Boom! The Tomb Kings are back. Dun dun dun. I was actually.
You are so proud of yourself.
I am. Like, I was actually really proud, like happy with the way that a lot of this came out. Because I was afraid that like there are just enough things that could easily go wrong with these conversions, and to make it all work. Like, because like if you look on the back, the Reaper guy back here, like the hand was just the right length to cut it off at the elbow, and to connect it down here and all that to make it look right.
Yeah.
So like it all came together just barely is what I would say. Like that, I don't know how else to say it. So, but I was very happy with these guys. So that was, and then I was going to just go into painting my Shadespire, and do like a palette cleanser. And I have to be honest, I started thinking about my Ironclad, and I'm like, nope, nope, that's not where we're going. So
Party boat.
Yep. So the party boat has been assembled. And here's just a glimpse of who will be populating my party boat. This is the Bugman from Warhammer World. One of our viewers was super generous when Vince was over there and gifted me with this. So he is going to have a prize position, a privileged position on the party boat. And I have a whole bunch of like mugs and cups and like Bugman's drinks that I've been gathering from like all of my dwarf minis. And I'm gonna have this strewn all over the boat. And everybody's going to be drinking and smoking. It's going to be a party boat.
I love it. I love that his helmet is sitting back behind him too. That's a nice touch.
Yep. He's soaking it in.
Sure. As well you should on the party boat. That's the point of the party boat, is to party.
Yep. And so that's happening. Party boat's happening, and it's going to be a blast. So I've gotten all that together. I got everybody like converted it, got everything green stuffed, and then just earlier today, I did my first, my base prime coat. And so I'm going to Zenithal it next, and then we're off to the races. So,
well, my jealousy of you knows no bounds with this hobby time. As I'm sure our viewers know, I've been home about less than 48 hours since the beginning of November. That is a true fact. Yep. So my hobby time has been, let's say, limited. That being said, I legitimately think I spent 35 of the, say, 46 hours I was home painting. So I tried to make the most use of that. And I'm converting, obviously, Knave Black Talon into a 40k Sisters of Battle Inquisitor.
Yep.
And that's coming along well. I've got some, I should be able to finish it up, fingers crossed, this weekend, although the basing is going to be ridiculous because she's going to end up being something for competition. So we have to go all the way on the base, and I have a fun little cityscape planned. So we'll see how that works out.
Nice.
But there's still, but she herself was mostly done when I left her. I've got her cloak and stuff to do. So.
I concepted up something else this week as part of my hobby time. I was talking about turning that my display board for my KO board into a skirmish table.
Yes.
I thought about going a different direction than what I had originally brainstormed. Like, how I wanted to have like the interior of like a caldera or a volcano with the high walls around the edge.
Yep.
I think what I'm going to actually do is to have do an inside outside. And so half of it's going to be outside with that wall. And then the other half is going to go into the dwarven hold. And do the interior on the other side.
Nice. I ordered up a new piece of like worky terrain because for Holy Wars in March I have to have my own board. I can't glom onto yours, so I'll have to make another lava board. When I started getting some like orc based rickety stuff, so I ordered a nice like watchtower type of like an orc.
Was it from
from Bits of War? Yeah.
Oh, Bits of War. I was gonna say Mini Monsters was the one where I got my terrain, and they had a bunch of orky stuff there as well.
Gotcha. I'll check it out because this was just the first piece. I'm going to need to get a couple of them, obviously. My goal with the terrain pieces is to keep most of them, like to do the board as just generic.
And just set them out so you can use them later.
Yeah, like that way I can bring the terrain onto my
your normal
my actual table.
Yeah.
That way I can turn this display board into something useful. You didn't think I was going to let that go by, did you?
Not at all. Not at all. Hey, if you're interested and you want to match the dimensions, you can be the other half of that exterior board of mine if you want.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. No, but seriously, like joking aside, I really was going to do that. I was going to continue on from like the right side of your board.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it, the right side.
Yep. That'd be good. Yeah. So then when we set up at Holy Wars, we can just be set next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. It'd just be fun. Because I still I love the idea of the narrative of the army we created. It's just because we don't happen to be playing on a team, I see no reason not to have that narrative still in play, right? Like that's the story of the army.
Yep. Totally agreed.
Yeah. All right, so let's pivot and talk about some Kharadron Overlords. As was mentioned at the top of the show, they've placed well in a couple recent tournaments. There's been some more attention. I've seen a couple of discussions about them and their playability. And so, you know, I think that it's fair to say that when they initially came out, they went through an interesting like cycle, like a really compressed.
I would say a mini development cycle. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and just like it was funny to watch. Like it was a roller coaster when these guys came out, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like they're overpowered. They're going to shoot everybody off the table. Oh my
which
God,
never happened. Which never happened.
I mean, I'm not going to say that. Like there were certainly instances where people got shot off the table in their games. So
sure. But like, yeah, it was just never as gross or as dominant as everybody thought it was going to be.
I don't think the apocalypse came to bear. I'm positive there were some bad games.
Sure,
whatever they get. Okay, yeah. But then they got their changes, and then it was like, oh my God, it's all over. The KO apocalypse has come and gone, and now we're sort of coming back up from the trough of despair, into unlocking these things truly and figuring out. I think that they can still be quite competitive,
right.
Especially in the world of post allies, right?
Right. Like I think that their window is narrower. Does that make sense? Like I think that you just have a much smaller like room for error in a sense.
Yeah.
That like there's basically one way to play these guys competitively. Which I mean that's not necessarily a problem. There's a lot of armies that you can only play one way competitively.
Yeah, I mean depending on how broad you're construing that, I'm not sure.
Sure, like
that statement.
Being able to stand toe to toe. Let me say this: being able to stand toe to toe with like change hosts and murder hosts and fire slayers and stuff like that.
Sure,
like and on top tables.
Yeah, but I also want to impress upon people: you don't necessarily mean there is one list. You mean there's one play style.
There's one play style.
Yeah, right. When people hear that, they're gonna think there's like some golden mean list. Like it's
no.
Because that got floated around for a while. That like the only way to play them is these groups of 40 Arco, and that's it. Blah blah blah. And that's all there is. And I'm like, and I never agreed with that. And so I want to be very clear that I don't think that's the case. I think we've seen lists that deviate from that in interesting ways and have shown that there are other methods. Although I agree with you, they tend to be. I don't want to say pigeonholed, but they tend to have a particular style. I'll agree with
Party vote.
They want to go. So I mean, what are your thoughts on them right now? Where do you stand right now on them?
Well,
I think we need to catch up with you.
Yeah, like I think that Gary Percival has really latched on to it and ran with it. I think Gary right now I would point to is like the player that's been most successful with KO, and I think that's good for good reason. Obviously, he's a fantastic player, and I think that he's seized on to what their strengths are. They have a flexibility in deployment that I think that is deceptive. And what I mean by that is they have the ability to basically set up however they want that's going to be most advantageous, and they can choose to do this after you've set up all your stuff. So even though they're a low drop army, because a combination of like Zilfin and Fleetmaster, they can like set up in the heavens. Like I need to reread it, but you can basically with Fleetmaster you can pick it up and redeploy. And I believe at the UK tournaments they were playing that so that like when you redeploy, you can redeploy into the heavens. Or if you're already deployed in the heavens, you can pick it up out of the heavens and redeploy on the table.
Interesting.
And so they were like, that's how they've been playing in the UK. That's what Gary and them have been playing. And I don't know if I think it works one way, but it doesn't work the other way. And what I mean by that is I think that like if you deploy on the table, I think you can deploy in the heavens. But if you're in the heavens, I don't think Fleetmaster will let you come down. Right.
Because you're not activating Fleetmaster.
Right. Yeah. Like it's one of those. Like, anyways, it doesn't matter. But what I would say is that because of that deployment flexibility, they can always capitalize if you've made any mistakes in your deployment at all, period. If you have any weaknesses in your setup, and maybe your weakness is that you aren't able to put the bodies, you don't have enough bodies to guard your flanks or whatever, they'll see that and capitalize on it. And they're probably going to go first because most party boats are going to be between 2 and 3 drops. And they're just going to, like some people call it the clown car. I agree with you. I like the party boat moniker.
Party boat's the way it should be called.
Yeah. because it's more than just it's more than just balloons. Like you got like it's anyways. It's party.
It's a party boat. It's bringing the party.
Yeah.
Hashtag party boat.
And so what I would say is that I think that the flexibility of deployment, to be able to capitalize the ability to alpha strike turn one. Initially, I had been a stronger proponent of like heavier Endrinrigger lists, so this is where I've moved a little bit. I used to be hyper like as many Endrinriggers as you can cram into your list. So like I was looking at like 27 Endrinrigger lists, like a frigate, 27 Endrinriggers, 3 groups of 10 and some chemists.
You mean 9 or what? Or are you saying 3 groups of 10?
3 groups of 10, like Arco for min core, and then some chemists. And so basically you'd set up with 3 drops, with a frigate and just then pile everybody out of it and do all that stuff. But I'm warming up. I've warmed up and I've moved towards the Ironclad party boat. And weakening your Endrinrigger footprint and strengthening the Skywarden footprint. And the reason is because you gain a 24-inch threat range, a very significant 24-inch threat range after your drop.
Right.
And so you have enough guns spread across, your Ironclad, your Arco that are on the boat, and your Ironclad Arco on the boat, and the Skywardens, like augmented chemist Skywardens with the drill cannons, that if you need to pick off like that Lord of Change or whatever, for whatever that strategic unit or units are, like if it's multiple low wound heroes or if it's a big monster that you need to eliminate that they have successfully bubble wrapped, this fixes that issue. Right. Because you can delete it that way. And you still have your suicide Endrinrigger, 12 model, 9 model, strong, like party assault.
Yeah, I mean, so let's bust in and talk about a few units real quick, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. How you see them. Like, I want to drill down into some specific units here.
Sure.
And Endrinriggers are actually the first one I want to touch on, because they are like, you got a lot of use out of them, and certainly they're a very deadly unit. Like, we see what happens when you up the attack number, through a chemist or whatever up there.
Yeah. So I had a non-optimized number of Endrinriggers when we did Holy Havoc, because I wanted to be able to field them in 2 units of 6, with some flexibility to have like a grapple unit and having like a somewhat like long range threat unit, because I didn't have a lot of that. And so I ran 2 drill cannons in my 12. So the times that I would deploy them in 12 models, I would do 2 grapples, 2 drill cannons. And we had a tournament reroll every game, so I was banking on that to reroll if I missed the grapple like to close the distance for charging.
Right. Sure.
And so that's why I didn't run 3 grapples. Like if I was running a block of 12 now, I wouldn't have any drill cannons in there, and I would run 3 grapples just to make sure that I don't miss that grapple charge in a normal tournament.
Sure.
But so I was running non-optimized, and I mean those guys could do some work. Like there's just no.
Yeah, I mean, to me, so the thing about Endrinriggers is, I think when people look at them and think about how they're going to work, they look at that damage profile that they can put out. And there's no doubt that those guys can kick out damage, right? Sure.
I killed 20, 21, 23 executioners on the charge.
Sure.
In our final game, like out of a 30 block of executioners that I went into.
Yep. And then those guys died not too much longer later.
Well, right? the key is the warlord turned on him.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Which is a very powerful piece. I understand in that particular scenario.
Yeah.
But the story of your Endrinriggers over the tournament, and I think of Endrinriggers often in general.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If they're not on like a double turn where they can grapple away, right?
Yep.
Is once they go in, they ain't coming back out.
No, they're not.
Like that's it.
They're done.
Suicide mission.
Yeah.
You use them to basically trade, 1 for 1. And so when you send them in, you need to be very aware of what you're sending them into, because once they get stuck in, I mean, they're 2 wound dudes with a 4-up save, right?
Yeah. They're like that. There's just not a lot there. Like, you send 12 of them in, that's 24 wounds at a 4-up save. Like that's not a lot. Like, and that's 480 points when you do that. So like, they have to do that work because they're not worth more than that, is what I would say. Like, and let me just be very clear about this. Some people have said that like they need to go up to 140. I don't think so. I think that at 120 they are doing what they are because you're paying for 6 wounds. You're getting, 120 points for 6 wounds.
No, I think they are. I think they're fairly costed at 120. I really do because yes, they will tend to eliminate what you put them into. Yeah, that's what glass cannons do.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's how glass cannons work. You put them into something, kill the thing, and then something else kills them. Right? Which is more or less the story of what happens. Because they're going to eliminate whatever they're touching.
Yep.
Or at least put an ungodly dent in it, depending on what the it is, right?
Yep. Well, I don't know many things that would survive their charge.
Yeah, I mean, just bodies alone, like a sheer number of other fairly.
Yeah, I can see like a Nurgle, like a heavy Nurgle block with penalties could probably survive their charge. The counter would be like my Chaos Warrior block could probably survive their charge.
Sure, and things that are also naturally battle shock proof for various reasons, right? Are sort of your worst enemy because certainly what the riggers are relying on is going in, blowing up half to 90% of the unit, and battle shocking the rest off. Right? If that's not happening, then that's where they can see problems because it doesn't take much to pokey holes back in them. Right?
No, it's true. It's true. Yep.
But which leads me to the question of you and I talked about the idea of waves.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you mentioned Gary or whatever, and he kind of talked about the same thing of having a 9 and a 3 or whatever, but you could think of it as a 6 and a 6 or a 9 and a 6 or whatever. There's probably many different ways to go about it. But to me, I like the idea. Like those guys are so killy that you can often end up.
You don't need a lot.
Right.
Like, let's be very clear. I sent let's put a finger on this. So in the game against Sean and Jake, Sean Clark and Jake Leclerc, in our game 4, I sent 6 riggers in with 2 grapples, so there were only 4 saws in there on 6 Skyfires, and only 1 Skyfire walked away from that fight until it was folded into 6.
Until the old reality brought them all back the next turn.
But that doesn't matter. But the point being that that was 240 points of riggers going into 400 points of Skyfires.
Yep. And hacking them down to 1 guy left.
Yeah.
Now they died. They didn't come back out of that fight.
No. Yeah, PS everything collapsed on them. But that's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I like the idea of the waves of the riggers because they can really they can blunt the spear of your enemy's force, right? Like your enemy's got a couple pieces that they don't want to lose, right? That they need to pierce your line.
Yep.
And even a smallish to midish group of Endrinriggers, let's say 6-9, right, somewhere in that range, can basically kill that thing or just blunt it so much that it becomes functionally worthless as to its original purpose, right?
Yep.
And so having a couple of those waves where you don't commit all at once, right? Yep. You can commit, hit, and then they react whatever you did, and then here comes wave 2 to clear out the thing they reacted with. I think has a lot of power. I think they work really well as a 1-2 punch.
I would agree with that. Yep. And most of the lists that I've been able to create are like lineups of like 9 and 6 or 12 and 3. It's inevitably what ends up happening. I think I have one list if I'm willing to go down to 6 Sky Wardens instead of the 9 that I was running. I could go with like a 12 and a 6, like a 12 pack and a 6 pack, which like that's a lot of riggers. But you're going to weaken your killing power at a distance when you do that.
Right. So let's talk about the core thing. Let's move on. Let's talk about Arco. Okay. They're going to show up in every list because, as has been commented on, to me, if there's any miss in the design of this army, it's that they have 1 battle line choice, even when in faction. It's unbelievable to me. This never was more apparent than when you and I were playing, and I'm playing Ironjaws. And I'm like, I don't even think about battle line. It's incidental. I just accidentally fulfill my battle line.
My list started at 760 points.
Right.
Because I have to include 2 units of Arco. Like I don't have any choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're saying larger units and bespoke and all that kind of crap. Yeah, I get it.
Yep.
So give me your thoughts on Arco right now, after having played them, a fair amount, and given the fact that they're going to be the anchor to every freaking army.
Yeah, they're really squishy, and they are very susceptible to battle shock.
Yep.
So like, I definitely accept that. I think that I think there's potential. I still think there's potential in larger numbers, like a single larger block that's Battle Shock immune. Because just the threat on those things is so significant. What I will say is that they are such a deterrent. They will often force like enemy heroes to stay out of your bubble, your 24-inch threat range bubble. And what ends up happening is they end up having to shoot other things that they're subpar against.
Yeah, sure. And that's something I really want to point out. Like, if they're hitting the stuff they're not, aces against, right? I.e., if you're shooting at like a flying hero and you're in Tilton or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of your ideal world.
Like 3 up, 3 up, reroll ones on both -2 Ren D3 damage. Like, which is just like for a battle line unit is just bonkers good.
Right. But then you put them into like, let's just say a normal ground pounder unit, right, of some stuff that's marching across, you need to weaken, and suddenly like they're just walkers and they're just a big unit with, let's say, decent-ish save.
What I will say is this.
It becomes swingy. My point is they can still do work.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on them to be as like point click kill as they would be against that other hero.
Yeah, I mean, where I think they're actually like they're really good, and a lot of people haven't like calculated this or talked about this, and they really shine. By the way, when we did our at Holy Havoc, was in the mid range.
I agree.
Like, man, I was
going to hit on this too.
Like, man, when you get some Arco in mid range within that 12 inches, when they level those pistols, like everyone has 2 shots. Every single damn grunt has 2 shots on that pistol, except for your big gun guys. Yeah, and they can do some work.
Well, I think at the mid range is actually not only that, because I that's just it. My point is when you rely on the skyhooks alone, the skyhooks are so swingy against non-optimal targets because they're on a 4-up. It's easy to toss 3 or 6 dice, right, 10 or 20 Arco, and get like 1 or 2 hits.
Yep.
That's not that far outside of the norm on a standard deviation of 4-ups. Okay, it's just not. So like, because I mean, if you're throwing 6, the standard statistics tells you to get 3. Going to 2 or 1 isn't that weird. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in a couple rounds.
Right.
And so, when that happens and suddenly you're only like, now you're trying to roll to wound once, like you can just suddenly get nothing out of those guys, right?
Yep.
Or 1 lucky 6-up save because you're shooting at a 4-up unit or something like that, right? Like these things will happen and you've got to account for that. Now, that being said, when you get in the mid-range and it's just a mass of fire, it becomes such a different story, especially against other things that are just like 4-up, 5-up stuff. Because then you're going to put so much numbers into.
You're just going to shred that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're not relying on a few hits that they might lucky roll out of. Like you're bringing back the law of large numbers working in your favor, right? Because they're going to drop 4-ups and 5-up saves. It's just going down, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that I agree with you. So that leads me to my next question.
Yep. Which
is dropping them out of the boat, right? Like you had a very successful round where you kind of piled some dudes out of a boat. The boat support came down from the heavens in the middle of the game, and you did some serious work because you were able to basically establish them in the mid range immediately, right?
Yep. Which is what the party boat's about. Like the party boat will always let you do that,
right? So I wanted to talk about like kind of roll up the frigate and the Ironclad. We'll leave off the gunboat for a moment because it's just a whole different animal.
Yep.
So how do you see those as functional now? Do you see them as integral to the list and still very and valuable in a particular purpose?
Yeah. So I was warmer on the frigate previously. Now I'm warmer on the Ironclad.
What accounted for the change?
The raw, like actually getting offensive power out of the Ironclad, and that it's actually like so this really interesting thing happens with the Ironclad because like the frigate is a 5-up, and on like 50% of the time it's going to heal 1 wound in your hero phase, and that's its defenses. Like that's it.
Sure. Other than just being a pile of wounds, because it's a 16 wound model, right?
No, it's I think the frigate's 14.
No, the Ironclad. I'm sorry. Were you saying the frigate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the frigate. Like so the
frigate's 14. Yeah.
Yeah. So the frigate is 14. 5-up save, and it's going to heal, 1 wound 50% of the time. I'm going to have probably at least 2 units of Endrinriggers in there, possibly, so it may heal back 2 wounds, or near, at least 1 unit nearby after 1 charges out, or 1 inside. And so, it might heal some wounds, but that 14 wounds will burn quick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yes. Sorry, I missed you were talking about the frigate.
Yeah. So that frigate. But here's where I now lean on the Ironclad. So the Ironclad will be able to put out some reliable wounds, and what I mean by that is it'll put out 3 to 5 wounds, just by numbers. Where the frigate just won't. The frigate, its longest range gun is 18 inches. Its carbines are 12 inches. But here's the catch: they're going to go down in number of attacks, and they're 12-inch range, which means that they will likely not, because when you airdrop this ship, when you pile your bodies out, your models have to be farther than 9, and you want lots of things within 12 inches, because you want all of your company and all of your riggers within 12 inches of models they can shoot at. It's that mid-range thing, which inevitably pushes your boat out of range.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you get at the end of the day is 1 cannon shot.
Right.
That's it. At 18 inches of range from that frigate, for 280 points, and you can only carry 10. You can only pile out 10 company out of that frigate, because it's a max of 10, and then your heroes are going to overburden.
Right.
So you're inherently not bringing as much. The base is smaller, so when you pile out all your riggers and wardens and everything, they have to be within a tighter circle. And anyways, so. But that Ironclad, it brings more consistent wounds.
Yep.
I've talked to some people about how do you deal with Nurgle, the massive Nurgle bodies. Somebody was like, do you just auto lose that fight? I don't think so. I actually think that you swap the tactic, and this is where the Ironclad really comes into its own. It's a 4-up base save. Okay, It's not a behemoth. It's not a monster. Let me point that out. So if you can get it on a hill, it gets +1 save. I hate to say that, but it's true. If you get it on a terrain piece, and the base is actually not that large. Let's be very clear about this. It's this. Okay? That. So this is not the pie plate. Okay? This fits on terrain pieces. Okay?
Yeah.
And they can batten the hatches for reroll 1s on all saves. So they can. So that's 16. Not 16. The 18 wound Ironclad.
Yeah.
Can be on a 3-up reroll 1s. That's not outside the realm of possibility. It can heal, if there are riggers nearby, if you don't deploy the crazy kamikaze, and so I'm thinking about the horde of Nurgle bodies. What you do is you use the ship and establish it as a to funnel how many bodies can actually get in combat with you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And then they can chop on that frigate for forever. Or on the Ironclad for forever. Even with a 4-up reroll 1, 18 wounds, it's going to auto heal between 2 to 3 wounds around.
Sure. And I mean, there's the thing, 18 wounds is just a lot of wounds. It is just a big number, right? On that kind of a save profile. And can they put something, significant into it and chop it down? Sure, of course.
Sure. Yeah. But the key is you're just in that type of world, you're just trying to buy yourself time. And the Ironclad actually becomes a usable piece. The frigate is not a usable piece in that world.
Right.
Okay. So that's one way. That seems like a really niche case, but the problem is against the Nurgle, you don't have another play. That's the problem. It's against that stuff. If you send your riggers in, they'll kill some, but they're just going to get overwhelmed. And you can't shoot them down because all that stuff has penalties to hit at range. And so that's a very hard. So you have to have a tactic, and the Ironclad gives you that tactic. It also it reduces your drop number by 1, which is very, very important. Okay, I know that people are saying that low drops aren't a big deal. Bull is what I would say. This moves you from 3 drops to 2 drops by running the Ironclad, which is really significant. Because if you look at most of the highly competitive lists, I think about Change Hosts, it's running with 3 drops. Most of them are running with a Gaunt Summoner because of the Horde meta, and many of folks don't want to leave Kairos at home. And like if you even the murder hosts, most of those murder hosts are going to have a blood secretor, possibly a blood stoker. Suddenly you're at 3 drops again. And so like that moving from 3 to 2 drops, I would argue is a very significant move, a very significant move. You obviously you're not competing with the 1 drops, but unless you're taking a battalion, you can't compete in that space anyways. So what I would say is the Ironclad's doing a lot of work for what it is. That jump, even though like a lot of people were critical, it's worth the upgrade is what I would say. I've moved on this. I used to not be of this mindset.
Yeah. So let's talk about something you probably haven't moved on.
Okay.
Which is the heroes. Is the chemist the only decent hero? I thought there would be some consternation around this one. He's the one that we know is useful.
Everybody, right? Everybody but the chemist is overcosted. Let me open with that.
Fair enough.
Okay. The navigator should be 80 points. The other heroes should probably be 100. Probably 100. So yeah, I feel confident about saying that. I think that they should be. I think that the navigator. Let me pull that up real quick.
Sure. I mean, my perception of them. First of all, I agree on the points thing. It's shocking that whole faction
is 140 points. Yeah.
Yeah, that their heroes are so expensive. It's just crippling.
Yeah. So the navigator should be 80. The Endrin master and the admiral should probably be 100. The chemist should probably stay at 140. I think the chemist at 140 is probably appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's good at 140.
Yeah, and actually, like a lot of people would probably argue with this. I think Brock needs to drop to between 2 and 220 from 300.
That's a heck of a drop.
It is, but if he's your general, like let me just say this: he's a worthless general because he gives all your guys run and charge.
Right.
Which
the only people you're charging with are due to grappled 3 inches away from the enemy.
Right. So that's and he doesn't get a command trait, like so he doesn't get the fleet master redeployment.
Right.
And technically, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they say that you can't field him with any army but his skyport, because he is the leader of a specific skyport. Like we see that with other rule sets.
Sure.
Nave, for example.
But I mean, facts not in evidence, right? Like,
sure.
I don't disagree, but that's not
the case now. But needless to say, like he 220. He's an 8 wound model with a 3-up save. He's not he's not a spellcaster. He can do some damage. Like a handful of attacks. He's not as good as. Let me say this: he's not as good as 6 Endrinriggers.
Sure.
And 6 Endrinriggers are 240 points.
Yep. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That actually is a fair comparison because it's in faction. It's a similar. Yeah. Nope. I agree.
Yeah. So, and he can't have an item. So like
right.
Because he's he can't have an item, can't have a command trait. So yeah, he should be 200 to 240. So the heroes all need to come down. Like that it needs to happen. That said, I think that they're circumstantial. Like I am seriously considering taking a navigator to the Holy Wars event. Because against some armies, some factions, the ability to even the chance to have all movement for flyers within 18 inches can be good against high mobility scenarios. So like not the most of the book scenarios, I don't think they're going to be valuable. But I think that against I think about the Holy War scenarios where mobility is so significant, navigator could be helpful. I think that the Endrin Master, I like his D3 heal on the ship that he's on. That's valuable. I like the Admiral's. I like his 2 command abilities. He has a bubble, battle shock bubble for company, which would be awesome. And he also has the ability to share wounds, like to dish off. Like he has a lookout sir command ability that he can activate, which is neat. The problem is that he all of his abilities are around him doing work.
Yeah.
Okay, but he gets 2 melee attacks and 2 ranged attacks.
Sure. And I mean, again, when I look at all these guys, they all have interesting utility pieces
Yep.
that feel overcosted for what you're paying for them.
Yep.
Right. Like that's because they don't have the other stats that are justifying that increased cost over what I think is the 100-point hero base. Right.
Yep.
When you
compare them to any Stormcast 100-point hero.
Or Bloodbound or whatever, right? Like there's a host of 100-point-ish heroes out there, Slaves of Darkness, and on and on and on and on and on. Like there's, we don't need to use the poster children. Yeah. Right. We can go much deeper.
But if that's the baseline, though, that's what I'm saying. Like if that's the baseline of what you're comparing against, let's compare against that.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at like the death heroes even and stuff like that, and they're not holding muster.
Yep.
So that just immediately should raise questions, right?
Yep.
Because they don't have I look at some of like the death heroes, like the vampire heroes and stuff.
Yep.
And their point cost and what they're bringing to the table, it's not even close. Now, again, it's different forces. It's not fair to compare across the lines, but I think that, it should be at least instructive. There's no reason for them to be let those utility pieces be their thing that sets them aside.
Yeah.
Just do it at a cost that isn't backbreaking.
Agreed. 100, they need to be doing something significant, battlefield shifting at 140 points a hero. And they're just simply not.
I don't think that's the case, but I think they need to be doing a couple things pretty good. At 140 to 160 points.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is to say, you can't just have one thing about you at that point. All the 100-point heroes have one thing about them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a good melee attack, a good command ability, whatever. Being a 100-point hero means you have the hero profile and a good thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, lightning round time.
Okay, lightning round.
Thunderers. Still crap?
Yeah. You have to go because the problem is this: once they get on the table, they can shoot at that midfield 12-inch range.
Yep.
And then they can do that. Okay, if you take all rifles, you get an 18-inch range, but you're not putting out significantly more wounds than if you had just had a bunch of company. So I just nope.
Fair enough. Sky Wardens, you're coming around on them. Why?
I am. Because the drill cannon. The drill cannon is where the money's at. Because of the splashing mortal wounds. That is so significant in an army that does not have mortal wounds.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's a 24-inch range. So those guys can deploy on the back side of the ship. So they don't take up that critical 3-inch range. So they're on the backside. High mobility, 12-inch. If they have to scrap, they have 3 to 4 guys, if you have a large unit of them, that can actually scrap, for multiple attacks, 3 up, or somewhere 4 up, 3 up, neg 1 ren, D3 damage. So they can scrap a little bit. They have a 24-inch threat range, 12 movement. Sky Wardens there's some value there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's really I agree completely. Yep. And again, it goes back to that conversation we had earlier. Just to re-end that Doom Wheel thing, right? Is that it solves that mobility problem in a way where they don't need to suicide in to achieve what they are. They're mobile there, and still when you combine that 24-inch threat range with that 12-inch move, these guys can really project power across a lot of the game.
Yeah, and at 300 to 400 points, is what you do for a big unit. They can kill a hero. They can kill that critical 5-wound hero.
Oh, sure.
There's enough attacks. Yeah. But they can reliably remove that strategic target at 24, at the 36-inch threat range.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, let me, as we wrap up, because I know we need to wrap up. Yep. Let me identify what needs to be fixed.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about what, as we go forward, we're going to see a refresh of these guys in 2018. Yep. We know it's coming. What would you hope to see in the refresh?
Okay. I think that either the frigate and ironclad, their costs need to come down.
Okay.
Not significant.
Yeah, what's
20 or 40 points, maybe.
On the ironclad?
On both.
Okay.
Because again, that frigate's not doing anything. It doesn't have enough attacks, and it's not defensive. Literally, it's just a delivery vector at 280 points.
It should be at least Luminarch priced, I would say, at 260, which is clearly doing,
A Luminarch is 240 now.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So Luminarch, which Luminarch has a greater range and has a wizard, and anyways, better movement, or about the same movement.
No
yeah,
flight, but I
anyways.
get it. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So they need to come down, or what I would say is if they stay the same, reduce their armor saves by 1.
You mean
I don't.
improve their armor saves by 1?
Yeah, improve their armor saves. Like go from a 4 to a 5 to a 4, 4 to 3. I don't see them changing the stats on War Scrolls. I wouldn't be if I were them, but if they're going to make actual adjustments, those things just aren't as tough as you might expect them to be. Thunderers need to be 5 for 80, and they need to be conditional battle line. Okay,
Sure.
they need to be your other battle line. And they need to be 80 points. Because what that would allow you to do is it would change your build options. Because right now everything is like 100, 120, 140.
Yep.
Like
and you got no
everything
80 to finish that out. Yep.
You have no 80 to finish it out. That's exactly right. And so having like 5 of those dudes at 80, I think would be the right move. Battle line, at 5 for 100, they were great when they had this 36-inch threat, or they had a bunch of different build options when they could like go deep, because they die super quick. There's only 100 points for 5 wounds. Come on, people. And so I would say they need to drop to 80 conditional battle line. The other thing that needs to happen is something needs to be done with the gun hauler in a serious sort of way.
Sure.
What I would do is this. Without changing anything that's currently there, I would drop it 20 to 40 points. So like at like the 280 to 200 points. So it's like an expensive chariot.
Yep.
Okay. And it's at about the wounds of an expensive chariot. I would give it the vessel rule. Okay. Which lets them carry people, but have a max capacity of 0.
Sure. So it can only haul balloon boys around,
or overburden to reduce the movement to a max of 5 Skyfarers.
Sure.
So like on the Grunstock gun hauler, you could put a min-size unit of 5, Grunstock Thunderers. Like
sure.
Like it fits.
I like that idea.
Or it could be a chariot for a hero. Functionally, you put a hero in there and some balloon boys and run it around.
Yeah, no, it's clever. I love it.
And that would be a very, very easy way that they could tweak that and make that gun hauler suddenly useful in a very real way in armies. Because it becomes this like secondary ship utility piece that can move around, and it can move kind of some of the strategic units around, and it would give some additional options, is what I would say.
Nice.
Some much needed options. The other thing that I would consider is that there may need to be a max balloon boy cap on ships.
Sure. Like you can't put 40 balloon boys hanging off one boat.
Right. And I don't know what that max number is. I'm inclined to do something like the max overburden capacity in balloon boys. So like it would be like 5, 15, 25. Like that's an easy number that you could point to. But I don't know. I don't know what that is what I would say.
Sure. I mean, I feel like probably the way it would go if they did it would just be a flat number, right? Like it's 10, or it's, well, the 10 would be a weird number because it's not the size of a unit, but like 12 or 24. That would be like something like that.
Yeah. Like, because if they want to change the playstyle, but if they went that direction, they would need to repoint everything.
Sure. I mean, yes, there's consequences to that, but yeah, I agree. All right. Anything else we want to touch on before we wrap up here?
No, I mean, I would say that, as somebody has pointed out in the chat, like there's a KO starter box that's out there, folks. That's going to be coming in the coming weeks. It's going to be on pre-order. So if KO is something that you're interested in, it's a great place to start to grab some new models.
You mean the army box or whatever?
Yeah, the army box, the Battle Force that's coming out in for Christmas. So it's coming. So if KO is something that's interesting to you, it'd be a good buy to get a jump on your army.
There you go. We'll rock and roll. Well, thank you, everybody. I know this was a shorter show. I apologize, but I have a limited amount of time tonight, but I'm glad we were able to get the show in, and it was good to revisit KO. I thought this was the perfect topic to touch on again. I always like to do that when we have these armies come out. Do an initial sort of hit, what's our feelings, and then get the look back with the benefit of hindsight, right? So next week will be the Thanksgiving Spectacular, as always, as has become our tradition. So we'll look back over the year and talk about what we have to give thanks for. As usual, I'll be in we'll be in unusual locations for that one. So 2 weeks from now, I'll probably be back at home, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Maybe.
But yeah, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We always appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.